Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you. I, Dr. Shoma Chakravarti, will be guiding you through this workshop on building a healthy family foundation. This workshop comes to you as a part of the preconception journey, and it's a very, very crucial time when we even start to consider that we will go ahead and have a baby, whether immediately or in the near future or even a couple of years down the line. Understanding what you want to sort of cultivate in your family as you go from a family of two to three is a very, very significant and lasting decision. Dr. Shwama Chakravarti, I come to you as a psychotherapist in private practice. I'm also a psychology faculty. And in my work with, talking to clients every single day, I've really seen the value of an intentional life. But an intentional life is not one that is hoped for and aspired for. It's really one that is built after close examination of, our lifestyles, our goals, our values, and then the successive steps that follow. In this workshop today, we'll be talking a little bit about what this transition will be like for you. We will look at what are the foundational functions of a family. So, who does what? How do we decide things? How do we communicate things? And also, once you have a child in your family, how do we as a new family unit interface with the larger family unit? We will be sort of going through all of these pieces. Please, please, please feel free to take this mainly as guidance and inputs and know that, no one size fits all. And whichever piece of our advice or strategy or tip resonates with you, take it, have a conversation with your partner, have a conversation with your larger family, and see how much of that is feasible and practical in your situation. A little bit digging and, introspection now goes a long way for the life that we are going to build. So let's start today and look at the foundations of a healthy family as you sort of transition and plan to become parents. So, setting expectations, as critical as it always has been, it becomes much more critical now when we start to think of introducing a third person to this tight couple unit that we have been. Having a child is a test on the relationship of the most sort of stable marriages and partnerships, even. And it's really not because we don't want to connect or we are, disagreeing, but it's because something very high is at stake over here. So in this section, we'll just look at why we need to be clear about communicating and how we can set expectations in a way that does not feel very challenging or very emotionally draining for us in this phase. Now, how to build a healthy foundation? This really starts with a conversation. So we all know that conversation, the dread of the baby conversation or the hope of the baby conversation. And this is something that all couples experience. First of all, really and truly acknowledge that readiness does not look the same for even the two of you. So one of you may feel more ready, one of you may feel less ready, and it's not the fault of one and the better or the strength of one. It's just naturally how people are. And one way to do this without the intensity is to start talking very early on in your relationship about what does parenthood mean. It does not even have to be with the idea that, okay, when are we going to have a baby? But just what does it mean to be a parent? What are some things that you experienced growing up at home that you would like to emulate? What are some things that you would like to do a little differently in your own family? Sometimes healthy, regular discussions about something like this takes away from it becoming a charged discussion much later in your relationship when you feel like the biological clock is ticking and something has to be decided and something has to be done. You could rather just bring your individual perspective once in a while in a relaxed environment and start having these conversations early on. One important piece, of course, to identify at this stage is really what are the values that drive me, what are the values that drive my partner, and together as a family, what are the values that drive us. If you want to just think about values, a very important question would be what's important to me in life? What is the thing in my life that really keeps me moving? It could be financial security. It could be like spontaneity and holidays. It could be quality time, right? So really ask of yourselves, what is this thing in my life that actually gives me lasting joy? And how can I feed that and weave that into the family that I'm going to build? Another very important one is parenting philosophies. Now, Loving a child is different from just bringing a child into the world. It's serious emotional work, emotional labor to constantly put another person and their priorities and their needs in a way that is almost sacrosanct, almost spiritual, right? So it may be important to think of what prioritizing the child means. In what ways do you want to nurture the child? Do you want to be a hands-on parent? Do you want to get help where you can so you can prioritize work? How do we feel we want to really nurture the child? Do we want to, have new experiences for them often on repeat? Do you want to co-sleep with them? All of these wonderful parts of life actually are very charged. And whenever you look at a idea that you want to implement in your parenting philosophy, you will notice that there's a huge debate about it. So, preparation begins by learning about this and talking about this right now. And while it may be easy to assume something about our partner, especially when someone is not in agreement, when someone has a different opinion, instead of assuming and sort of disconnecting, try and use this time to ask questions without judgment, without anger, without difficult emotions. Ask open ended questions and say, what is the worst thing about this? Or what is the most bothersome thing for you when you say this? So the conversation actually opens up rather than it gets focused on a yes or no answer and closes up. So these are some tips on how you can get started on talking about what parenthood may mean for you. Let's look at the transition, the really powerful transition from 2 to 3 as a family unit now. So parenthood is much, much more than just having a baby, as any two people considering having a child are thinking. I'm sure that, when you start to think of a baby, you think of life, time, money, priorities, holiday, retirement planning, a whole bunch of pieces that are very, very important in life will have to now significantly realign. It's very likely that, one of you may be holding the financial worries, one of you may be holding the logistical worries, and nothing is better or worse. This is really the lay of the land. This is a big, big change that's going to come up. And of course, then it is very, very likely that many, many couples find it uncertain, overwhelming, hard to talk about. And that's where the aloneness comes from. It's not that other people are not experiencing the same things as difficult, but they're not talking about the difficult parts of it. And generally, also, we need open communication when we are feeling grounded. So, when you're considering parenthood, maybe it's wise to not make every weekend a conversation, but when you find yourselves, on a holiday somewhere, relatively unwounded and chilling, so to speak, maybe that may be a time to just say, what if we had something coming up for us? What would we do? How would we plan? Let it become something that's a part of your life and not a task to check out. So that's something to consider at this point. And yeah, so a very big thing to take inventory of are how are we doing as a family? How are the pillars of family functioning, operating for us? And how are we going to integrate a baby into this? So let's look at these pieces now. So in theory, if you were to study how families operate very much like a computer. So there are different units. They are all connected. Output directly depends on input. Families operate in exactly the same way. So families have members take on roles. So we looked at how roles, communication, and decision making are important pillars, but none of these pillars can be welded into our plan and actually made to work for us if we don't execute them. So, make your plans, chalk them out, imagine what it would be like to run them. If you have scope, run them, see where you need to troubleshoot. I think a significant part of family functioning, of course, is how families structure time. This may also be important, as a phase right now for the two of you as a couple to imagine how you want to structure time as a family for your new family when the time comes, because like presence, time, doing things together, these are very, very important things for a life with a young baby or a toddler. Really builds into quality time. So while pillars of family functioning like roles, communication, decision making are important, the biggest one of these actually is execution. So taking this time to make your plans but is wonderful, but you have to, of course, put them into action and see how they work out. For instance, if you delegate something big to someone and that does not follow through, you could have a significant challenge. So just taking these inputs, figuring, what may work, where do we have a big gap, what do we need to close is the task at the moment. Another very, very important question for couples to consider when they're planning a baby, of course, is how we're going to structure time as a family when we have this baby or toddler in our lives. What do we do to make our family rituals, our roles, duties happen such that there is time being used in functions which are actually of lasting importance, right? So, how do we carve out one meal that all of us will have together with the baby, so that that becomes a family ritual that the child can really look back at in life and say, okay, that was something we did as a family. Very important to think of these high stake things which may need a significant shift in the family way of working, but also bring lasting joy. So to do this, just consider taking an inventory, right? So you look at the small things, look at the big things. The small things could be, you know, if one of you has a traveling job, or if there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of socializing. How much are we eating out? How much are we, how much alcohol am I having? These are all things that you will have to start considering right now, because preconception health, both physical and mental, are very, very critical. And changes that you make in these months and sort of, they have a lasting impact in the time to come. Same thing with the big picture. Where are we living? How much support do we have around? Am I living close to family, or, are we in a city where they don't have family, but we have colleagues and friends, but they're in some other part of town? How much income do we have to park towards this at this point? Will we have to cut back on some things? Will we have to, how will we save for the child? How will we save long term for the child? All of these things are things and questions you can even take to a planner. So when it comes to making changes in these family functioning pillars, a tangible way to do this would be to actually take an inventory of the macro and micro factors that come into play. Micro factors could be how well are we sleeping, how much stress do we have on an average day, how much eating out or how much alcohol is getting into our systems right now, because this is an important part of preconception health. And when we look at the big picture, it could include questions like, where are we living? How much social support do we have, accessibly? Like, how soon will family be able to reach us if we need it? Or how soon will my group of friends be able to reach us if we need it? It will also involve questions about where are we monetarily? And I think this is a big piece that all parents consider when they are, thinking that, we are going to introduce it into the system. Where are we in terms of income? Where are we in terms of investment? Where are we in terms of savings? And it can be mind-boggling when we consider these questions. These are not answers we have to figure on our own. You can look at a planner. You can also refer to the HERA toolkit, which has plans and timelines to help you sort of estimate from here to there what are the steps and timelines that we have to abide by in terms of the macro factors that come into play. This inventory does not have to be like something that's time bound right now. You can also revisit it from time to time and see, okay, what are the big gaps we had then? What are the gaps we have closed now? And what we need to plug before we take the leap. Now, psychological readiness is a big one for a lot of parents, because suddenly when we imagine that we who sometimes feel like barely able to manage our own lives, and then we will introduce a child into our own. I think I've heard a lot of those things as a therapist. So psychological readiness can feel like a big daunting piece, but let's take a look at and reframe some of these bits for ourselves. Now, the first thing I would encourage everyone, and I think that's my biggest advice, is let go of the notion of perfect readiness. We are never perfectly ready for any transition, and let alone, to parent a new being that we are going to bring into the world. But babies really don't need us to be perfect. They really just want our presence, of course, from a healthy and stable family routine. So if you're someone who's feeling very bound up in this idea of, am I calm enough? Am I fit enough? Am I healthy enough? Am I loving enough? All of these come from this deficit perspective that has been thrown to us at life. And, you're told that, how are you going to be this perfect parent? This idea and this scarcity and this definition of deficit is very, very detrimental, not just now, but it will be very hard to live by a standard like that as parents for all of our lives. It's better to reframe this perfect readiness by, are we at a good enough space to start? Are we at a good enough space in terms of our finances? Are we at a good enough space in terms of our health? Have we sort of made some space in our life to take on another really demanding piece? Is really all. And remember that the state of readiness will never feel like, now I have lived my couple, phase of my life completely and I'm okay to let it go. That's never going to happen. So when we have the baby, we will miss this. But at this point, we also cannot imagine the joys that it will bring. So we can have very many mixed feelings about this, and that's just part and parcel of the process. Now, some practical tips to strengthen readiness. So, suppose you did that inventory and you felt like we both know nothing about babies. So, that's something that you want to upskill on. So, you can attend classes. There are lots of people offering classes on Lamaze and things like that. I'm sure the HERA team will also be able to point you out to courses, programs that help parents sort of understand what are some things we want to actually learn about. Learning actually is a very powerful way of executing your intention. And I think that says something to do that, right? But something that's even more important is making our mind a little steady, our ability to stay present a little robust, because that's something that the baby who will come will really, really test, right? They need our presence in more than one way. So you want to start building that muscle up, whether that means, you take care of your body by gymming, or you start a meditation practice or a journaling practice, or even something like cultivating and building a very intentional social support group for yourselves. These are ways in which we are up sort of strengthening the pillars of our family to support what's coming. And periodic reflection of what more do I need to do, what am I already very good at, and what is something that I'll be offering to this child. So at this point, I would actually encourage all of you to think of one thing that you're already sure to be passing on to your child as a gift. So maybe you were great with sports and you just look forward to bringing this child into the world, and then at some point taking them swimming or taking them to play. As a mom, you may bring play, or you may bring VC, or you may bring a very, very strong sense of care that the child will really grow and blossom in. While you're always looking at what needs to be done, please make sure you also take time and notice what you're already good at and what you already have in your arsenal to offer to your child as a parent. And of course, as a couple, what kind of parents do we want to be? We already spoke of the parenting philosophy. So that would be part and parcel of this. A big piece to consider when we are thinking of a new family, especially the family that's very tender, very new in a vulnerable space, is how are we going to advocate for what our new family needs? Advocacy may be something you need in the hospital when you want, your child taken care of a certain way, of course, under the aegis of and approval of the doctor. But advocacy is also important because you will now be in charge of so many big and small decisions that a child can be impacted by. And we have to then be a little informed in our opinions. We have to sort of take feedback from the right sources, which is, trust the medical advice, and then follow through and be willing to tolerate some discomfort when you have to speak up for your child or your new family unit. This may mean setting boundaries. This may mean saying, no, this is when our baby sleeps. We would like you to visit a little earlier if possible. It's also that this is the kind of culture you want to create for your family. So think that protecting this now means that this system becomes more strengthened and more robust as you go through life with the child. Just like we have plans for different times of life, this is also a very important time for you to even start planning what will happen in the postpartum phase. So maybe it feels like it's too far off. I'm not even sure yet, when are we going to bring the baby home and what's going to happen then. It may feel very far off, but the time is so critical, and there are so many things to consider at that point that it actually makes sense to work backwards and start looking at it from now. And when we are doing this, I would encourage you to take a little bit of the ideal and a little bit of the real and sort of marry the two to see what's the best plan that's possible for you. Now, evolutionarily, what do we need in the postpartum phase? We need bonding. We need time for both the mother and the child, but also the mother, father, and the child to feel close and bonded together. This is just not a figment, or this is not just a desire, but the research shows that oxytocin, the hormones that help us feel connected, that support feeding, are all generally it's generally more easy to sort of create that ideal status that you need for birth, breastfeeding, etc., in a space that is sort of closed, safe, cocoon like, and then shared by the immediate the unit, the family unit. What does this do? It helps in co-regulation. Now, what is co-regulation? Co-regulation is the way in which a child's immature nervous system borrows the stability from the mother or another close giver to feel safe. Now, imagine the child trying to co-regulate with the mother, or the mother and the father, versus the child trying to co-regulate with everybody, especially when his nervous system is very, very immature. So the cocooning directly feeds into the co-regulation, like it also feeds into rest and physical recovery for the mother. But what do we have in lives? We have no leave that could be ending too soon. We may be parenting in a city where we don't have too much support. So it's also important to see what our practical difficulties are, and if some of these things cannot be helped, then we want to plug that with professional help or a change, or we may make plans right now saying the day, one of us has to go into work, the baby sleeps with the other person, so one person is rested. These are just small examples of how we have to match our needs to our realities in the postpartum phase. Let your postpartum plans be tangible, because if it's not tangible, it probably will not sort of go into operation at all. But let them also be flexible. So some basic examples could just be, how do we figure meals? Will we upscale our house help to do some other things? Who will be taking care of like some of the baby's supplies or baby's laundry? Have honest conversations about prioritizing rest for each of you, because this is not a phase of 2 weeks or 2 months. It's a very, very long haul, and sleep deprivation is very, very real. Stay flexible. No plan, of course, goes how imagined, but planning early and editing them as we go just can go a long way in preserving some amount of sanity at that time. Now, boundaries are meant to be tested. So let's look at what happens when we try to establish our boundaries with family and friends here. Now, boundaries essentially are ways in which we protect connection. So boundaries generally are thought of as ways of walling people out, but boundaries are really a way to establish connection that work for both parties. But then they do need us to have difficult conversations. So once you and your partner are clear from having had these conversations that, this is the way we want to parent, these are some things we want to prioritize, start communicating these to your larger circle, to your family, slowly, gently, breaking down, giving them a rationale, saying, I know that there are many ways to do this, but this is something we would like to try, and can we have your help in this? Very, very important to be kind, because there could be people who raised children before and they may have a feeling that this is just unthinking, this is not even heard of, what are you trying to do? Explain, solicit their help, be kind, but also be firm that this is something we've spoken about and we definitely would like to do it this way. Generally, being clear about communication generally secures some amount of commitment from them, because of course it's been placed on record. And it also allows you to feel less resentment when you realize that, oh, I hadn't done that and look, now this is happening. It avoids all of that by supporting the philosophy coming into action. Now, why do boundaries matter so much? You will be in charge of a very, very small, tender, very vulnerable little being. Please remember that babies have a very, very immature nervous system. So visitors, for example, at that point, when they have no immunity, can actually cause a lot of trouble with health. Similarly, you will have to sort of make so many choices regarding food, regarding sleep, regarding screen time, regarding sugar, for instance, right? There are lots of choices to be made. And once the choice has been made, the only way it can be action, because we are not going to be around the child 100% of the time. So clear boundaries, clear preferences, clear directives, which communicate from our end and respect the other party, are the only way in which we can do this well in a team that sort of is respectful and healthy. And what about your parenting journey long term? because decisions that we take now go and have a ripple effect that lasts much longer. Let's take a look at what may come in here. So, deciding and then bringing a baby into the world is not about the birth at all. It's a much larger journey, the one that's going to be transformative and defining for your life to come. So, what would you, if you had to think of what would I like my child's life to be when he's a toddler? What are things I want to prioritize when he goes to school? Do I want him to be in a school that's extremely competitive and known to be very successful? Or do I want her to be, schooled in an alternative way, which nurtures some, abilities, skills differently? Do I want a mix of the two? It's never too early to start having conversations. So maybe you go to a party and you meet someone whose child goes to a certain school. Ask them, what were you thinking? What made you think or choose this sort of such a particular school for them? Similarly, think of transitions, all the transitions that you will be navigating right from preconception to birth, to all the trimesters, to feeding, to weaning. From now onwards, there's going to be a series of transitionings like a domino effect, and how you handle one sets the tone for how you handle the next one. Check what you did not have the previous time, check what would help you this time, ask for help, ask for conversation, ask for resources wherever possible. And while you're going through this enormous journey, just milestones and markers go a long way. Celebrate the things that worked well. Be very, very intentional about what you're actually picking to prioritize in life. So, a no phone dinner is one of my favorites because screen time is a big no. I mean, I'm not sure how many of us are going to be able to abide by it. But many countries in the world actually say zero screen time for children up to 2 years of age. And while that may be difficult for everyone to cultivate, at least having times of day where the child gets to spend time with you with none of us being on the phone is a very powerful way of showing the child that screens are not essential to time being structured. Similarly, you and your partner eventually can come around to having a weekly check-in and some amount of time as a couple, just a coffee as a couple, even to just feel like, okay, this part of our life still exists. These milestones eventually will become like glimmers in your journey so that they make you feel like, okay, we did that right. And we are coming to the close of this workshop, and here's a look at the key takeaways that you may have from today. I would like to encourage you again to just consider these as beginnings, as sort of saplings of thought that you're going to, of course, talk about and build on as you grow and make it into a plan. And should you be needing any other resources, please reach out to Bahera team. They are here with resources and help for you at any point. I hope you really enjoyed this workshop. Thank you, and we see you for another workshop soon.